Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Think you know what way it's going to go? Make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all sports betting has to offer. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. I feel like everyone knew that was going to be a loss, but I'm still finding a way to be disappointed after that one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Game Over Ottawa, and what is unfortunately for us folks across the pond, the final afternoon game of the season for the Sens. So we're in for a whole bunch of late nights. The two of us being the two maybe only Sens fans in the UK. We had this conversation last time, but yeah, I'm kind of sad. I'm almost more upsetting than the fact that was a loss. That afternoon games are done. We have to deal with midnight or later starts for the rest of the season.
I didn't actually even know that was our last afternoon game.
I'm pretty sure
not know
it is.
that. And it's a bit odd because I swear, like, they've come in quite a few clusters this season.
They really have,
so we've
yeah.
had like an afternoon game and an afternoon game. It hasn't really felt like they've been spread out. I mean, for me, afternoon games are so difficult because I love the fact that I can watch the whole thing and it's not like 3 a.m. But on the flip side, most of the time we suck at afternoon games. So it's, do I want to be happy or do I want everyone else to be happy?
Yeah, and I just checked the earliest game for the rest of the season. They have one 6 o'clock start against Columbus, so 11 p.m. for us. So it's late ones here on out with another trip out west included in there too. Oh, that's gonna be rough. That's so yeah. So a safe bet you probably won't be watching from March. What is it, 6th through the 14th? Those are 9 p.m. or later starts. I'll probably be taking about half of those. I feel bad. Last time that the Sens, so Maud hooked me up for the show. Last time the Sens did a trip out west for 4 games. The only one I did was an afternoon game against the Ducks. So she really hooked me up with those ones. So I think I'm gonna have to take some late ones this time around.
Oh, honestly, it's just, like I said, it's so hard. It's fine if it's a weekend. Like, I can stay up at a weekend easy. Like, when I was a student, I'd stay up all of the time. Like, the amount of games that I would watch. Like, I distinctly remember one time pulling an all-nighter and, like, watching a whole Sens game and then tuning in, watching, like, a Vegas game or something just to pass the time. And now it's like I maybe listen. I don't even watch most nights if it starts at midnight. I'll listen to the first period as I'm falling asleep, and then the next morning I'm like, oh, okay, what was the score?
So with that in mind, and knowing that this is potentially one of the last full games you'll get to watch this season, does that add to the disappointment of the loss, or in your mind, this was just like a scheduled loss, like everyone knew? A back-to-back against second half of the back-to-back against the Bruins. Like, did you have any hope at all coming into this one?
I had hope that it would be a close game, and that was about it, really. I mean, not only is it an afternoon game where we usually just for some reason forget what hockey is. It's against the Bruins, like you said, and yes, we have played okay against the Bruins in the first 2 games before this, but this is a Bruins team who've somehow gotten better and better and better throughout the season and just have the most insane home record that I think I've seen in the longest time. Like, they've been beaten, I think, is it like twice in regulation at home?
And still, what is it, undefeated still in regulation after leading after 2 periods? I believe the number was 29-0-2, so now 30-0-2 after leading
insane. Literally insane. So yes, I was hoping that we'd be able to, like, take the fight to them, given how for some reason we're one of the teams they struggle against, of all teams. But having said that, it's a back-to-back. We have an ECHL goalie in net. We've lost one of our top defensemen.
Yeah.
We still don't have, like, one of our top goal scorers. and it's about to. But yeah, I think it was always going to be set up to be a scheduled loss. So that's why my only hope was that we would kind of take the fight to them, and we did. So I'm pretty okay with that. The problem is looking back at the games that we should have won and didn't. I don't think many of us were expecting us to win this, but there have been so many games this season where I'm like, we should have had that.
Yeah.
So,
And it bums me to say this. It really does. I actually look at today's game like that was a chance to win. Like the Bruins didn't look like the Bruins, to be honest. Like they didn't look that dominant through the game. The Sens power play looked awful for the first time in weeks.
I
think
that's the most despairing thing is that, yes, we had loads of chances that we were robbed a few times by Allmark, admittedly.
Oh, that's a given though when you're playing him.
That's a given. Yeah. But the amount of chances that we just didn't make or just did not even try to capitalize on any chances, and then the 5-on-3 for almost 2 whole minutes. This team, honestly, we have some of the best. Well, up until today, we had like the second best power play in the league. Yeah, I guarantee you that's all 4-on-3 power plays. We never seem to score on a 5-on-3. And I'm here like, this is the easiest time in a game to score. This time period has literally been set up for you to score. And every single time, it's like they forget how to run a power play. Are they just not prepared?
It's like they're overwhelmed. People? They have too much space or something. It's wild.
Yeah, and then they start trying to do loads of like fancy moves and passes and deeks. And I'm just like, just throw the puck at the net. Like normally I'm all for skill. I'm very much like, I love seeing amazing plays. But when you're against the Bruins, you have to take any chances you can get. And yeah, even if it looks a bit sloppy, there's still a high chance that it could get in the net rather than you just trying to do something fun and it just kind of falling apart and the puck end up going back the other way.
I think the worst part is that 5-on-3, as bad as they look, that was also a 5-on-3 with Patrice Bergeron in the penalty box. Like, arguably their best.
Their main penalty killer.
Yeah, like
we didn't even have to fight Patrice Bergeron.
It just looked like a gift, and they just like, and I think especially in that 5-on-3 though, with the whole game as well, I think Batherson looked really, really rough, which is just, I mean, everyone was singing his praises after the game yesterday against the Blues because he looked great in that game. But just kind of
I don't know what he was doing. Some days
refused to shoot. Refused.
I think some days it's like you said, it's either getting overwhelmed or I think it's overthinking. I think it gets to the point where quite often this team starts overthinking. But then every now and then they would just completely underthink. It's like, you're overanalyzing all of your like shooting chances and your passing and then forgetting that defense exists. But like it's one thing I noticed, like we pass a lot and that's fine sometimes, but a lot of it's back passing, which always does my nut in because I'm sort of here like this isn't rugby, this isn't like American football or something. You don't need to throw it backwards. Like it you can move forwards while still sort of moving forward. And yeah, it's just I think sometimes there are still quite a few of our slightly younger players who are afraid to just throw the puck at the net. They'd rather pass it and see if someone else can throw the puck at the net. The amount of like plays that I've seen and I'm just like, why didn't you try to shoot? You've just passed it. It's like passing the buck, right? They're trying to pass the pressure onto someone else.
Yeah.
That was at least frustrating. But like we said, it's the Bruins at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people beat the Bruins?
Yeah, I think they said on the broadcast that the Sens and the Panthers are the only two teams to beat the Bruins twice this season, which is wild because neither of those teams is that close to a playoff spot, really. Like both teams are struggling a lot more than expected. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you have to embrace that sometimes. There's something about maybe not this season.
That's the Kachuk effect.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I think you're right. The Kachuk effect.
The only thing it could be.
Yeah.
No.
Uh,
But yeah, you were
yeah,
saying, sorry.
yeah. No, I forget where I was going with that, but on an earlier point you made, you hate the drop passes. Now, I remember from last time that you were on the show, we had this conversation that you discovered the Sens during the 16-17 season, and that's making me realize you are the perfect template for the type of person who would have a very like a love-hate relationship if you had watched Jason Spezza every night, because I don't know how much like footage of Jason Spezza you've seen over the years as far as like his time with Ottawa, but notorious for power play. He's going up the neutral zone, drops it to the defensive blue line. He was the drop pass king at the
Yeah,
time.
that would have done my nutting. And admittedly, I feel like I'm slightly allowed to hate Jason Spezza a bit because he went to Toronto. So,
I think that's
you know,
fair. Yeah.
it's fair.
At the very
Yeah.
least, towards the end of his time with Ottawa, at the very least, that drop pass was to Carlson, so someone was flying in
Yeah,
with the
I mean,
puck.
there's
But
that.
like I get, just feed Carlson and hope for the best. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've never loved the drop passes, and there seems to be it's a lot. And I mean, like, I don't want to hold this against DJ Smith because I do think things are turning around. 100% things are turning around, but he seems like his game plan seems so heavy on drop passes and dump and chase. Like, you'd
But
think with
he's
his
openly
forward group,
admitted to the Sens have openly admitted to dump and chase being their main strategy. And I'm like,
I don't
that's
with
not a strategy.
like on
That's
paper, you think there's so many skilled puck carriers on the team. Just
yeah.
I don't know.
And I mean, you say you're not going to put it on DJ Smith. I'm going to put a lot of it on DJ Smith. I don't care. I'm past that point. It's it seems like at the moment he's not the type of coach that is going to take us higher.
Right.
You know, for me personally, he has been amazing in bringing the team together, getting the team sort of mentally through, some really rough times. All the players love him.
Hmm.
Apparently it's a good locker room, but at the same time, a good locker room, it's great, but when your results aren't reflecting that,
Yeah.
then something needs to happen. And every game I watch, I swear I get more frustrated. Constantly chucking out the fourth line in a third period
Oh boy.
where we're down, and
Yeah.
we didn't even have a shot in like the first 10 minutes or like in the beginning of the third, but for 10 minutes. I didn't think we had a shot. And I'm like, you cannot go that long without getting a shot. And again, going back to the power play, one of our power plays, we didn't record a single shot on. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is going on here? Like what? But at the same time, when you're not being given like forward depth by your GM, that's also a problem.
Yeah.
We do not have a lot of scoring depth down into the bottom six. That's a fact.
Yeah.
So this is why, I mean, I'm probably more cynical than most people. I'm not the most pessimistic person. I'm not the most cynical person on the internet. But, while I have been majorly loving the fact that we've just gone, 7-2-1,
Yeah.
that's so good. I'm so happy. The joy I felt last night watching that St. Louis game where all the goals just kept going in. I have not felt joy like that in a long time. But there is still a lot of work that this team needs. And yeah, I think there's some overhauling still to be done.
Yeah,
But
Maud and I were talking on the show yesterday that, and props to us for still finding a way to be like, how could this be better after a game like that? Which honestly, we probably should have just embraced how fun that was. But my main point was, and maybe like it's gonna be a tougher sell now after how bad his game was, but I would love to see Batherson moved as like the main piece in acquiring a top four defenseman.
I would not be opposed to that.
I just
I
don't know
think that,
how likely that is. Because I
well,
don't know. Maybe GMs are just going to look at his offensive output and be like, "Yeah, this is great." But between the fact that he can't play defense and there's still, the question marks about the 2018 World
well,
Junior team with him, like I don't know how many
well,
GMs
this
are
is the
going to
thing.
want to go after him.
I mean, realistically speaking, this is the NHL and this is ice hockey. I don't actually think they care that much about things like that. We've seen what's been happening with like Hockey Canada. We saw what happened with the Blackhawks. I don't think that someone possibly, maybe not, who knows, we still don't know, being involved in a situation like that, I don't think other GMs are going to care, which is really sad to say.
Yeah.
Really, it hurts having to say that, but I don't think other GMs are going to care.
That's a great point you just made about comparing it to the Blackhawks situation, because coming into the season, everyone's like, well, everyone on that team is now tarnished to me and I can't look at any of them the same. And I'm seeing those same people being like, oh, how cool would it be to get Jonathan Toews at the trade deadline? Like, people, like, everyone's, I'm not saying Sens fans, because like I don't think any Sens fans have been like, let's buy like really hard, but as just hockey fans across the board, the same people who were disgusted by it have also been like super on board with bringing in like Jonathan Toews or Patrick Kane or whoever, right? So the thing is, 100.
I mean, the main reason I was okay with DeBrincat was because when someone actually interviewed him about the situation, and he basically kind of said, well, I wasn't around at the time, but I think it sounded awful. And, he made like a really sensible statement.
Oh, for sure.
Following a question that he actually shouldn't have been asked. And I sort of looked at him and I was like, okay, that's how you answer that. Like, that is how you answer that. Yet, looking at like Kane and Toews and the whole rest of those, like either the players that might still been left or the players in past, like, not handled well. Handled well.
And it's all just like, if hockey fans have a memory that short, maybe, by choice, imagine how short GM's memories are going to be with something like that. So
I don't think that's going to be a problem in terms of like trading him. And I think teams might look past the whole no defense thing if they already have decent defense. Right. I think if there's a team that's trying to reach the playoffs that needs power play depth, good goal scoring, I think they would be the teams to target. But obviously, on the flip side, we're looking for a defenseman back. So we'd be shipping off someone who has no defensive skills and asking for a defenseman in return. Like, that's just doubly weakening another team's blue line.
Yeah, and if you were a team that's shopping a defenseman, you probably just have strong defense in the first place, so you're probably not too concerned with that. But it's that's the thing too, is that like, because it'd be like ideally a young roster player for a young roster player in that case. So it'd have to be a really specific move, and maybe the better option is, as long as you got the space for it, because Stützle's contract kicks in next season. DeBrincat's going to get a pay raise, probably not like a crazy, like maybe a couple million more than he's making this season, 2 or 3 million more. So you kind of have to work the money out, but maybe Maud and I are both fully on board with this. I want to know what you think of this too, because I can't stop thinking about how like this feels like the summer to buy
I don't care about shipping him out. Send him off.
not even that. Well, how would you feel about a DeBrincat trade? Not trading DeBrincat. No, not sorry. Take the template of the DeBrincat trade and make that move, but for a defenseman this time, because the Sens are probably going to end up with a pick in the 10 to 15 range, so like it won't be as high. I love the idea of just saying, "Fuck this draft." Like as much as the season's been struggling.
It depends on the draft depth. It depends completely on the draft depth. Like, I haven't had personal chance to kind of research it too much. I mean, obviously we know Bedard is insane.
Yeah,
we know that. We know that's the thing. But I think because he is so good, we barely hear from anything about any of the other prospects. Like, I can't think of seeing any sort of prospects this year, or any draft eligible players that haven't been him. So I don't know if, I'm praying that the team's done far more research than little old me has. But, like you said, you wonder this year, is this time to move some stuff? I mean, we still have most of our picks this year, I think, don't we? We've got a couple extra sevenths, I think. Like, we haven't done a lot in terms of buying. And this is the thing, and it's one thing I'm going to try and write about, actually, is, are we going to be buyers? Are we going to be sort of buyers? Are we going to be sellers? What is the plan? And I think regardless of what our hopes are for the rest of the season, you know, whether or not the Sens are going to attempt to push for a playoff spot, wildcard spot, or whether we know, right, actually, let's put it on the back burner, sort it next year.
Yeah.
I think
on
we still need to figure out what we're doing by the deadline, at least.
mhm. On your point of the draft picks, yeah. So the Sens have their own picks, save for their third round pick, as they moved that pick to Toronto with Matt Murray to just take him. So no third round pick for the Sens this year, but they have their own first, second, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then they have Nashville's seventh and that conditional Rangers seventh from the Mott trade. So not like they're stocking up on picks or anything this year, really, but I honestly, with how the team is built, I genuinely do think that they're one top four defenseman and a healthy season out of Zub and Norris away from really, really making a push. So I'm fully on board with a big move.
This is the thing that we haven't, I can't remember if we touched upon much last time. I can't remember that far back. That's one other thing. We have had a lot of injuries. You know, how many, we've lost Zub like at least twice.
Yeah.
Shabbat, I think at least twice. Sanderson at least twice. Like, you know, our blue line, for as faulty as it is at times as well, has been decimated. So I think, yeah, we need an elite defenseman, and maybe just shuffle and change up the bottom six. Whether you try and bring people up from Belleville, from the NCAA, or, you know, whether you bring people in, you just need to revamp it. And obviously, like you said, please, can people stay healthy? No more shoulder injuries. No more shoulder injuries, please.
Stop trying to bring guys back when they can't take a face off. So in a perfect world, in my perfect dream world, the Oilers acquire Karlsson because I want to see Karlsson and McDavid together. And if they do that, then also they're going to be out on Chychrun. And by some miracle, I'm still holding on to it. I want Jacob Chychrun to Ottawa. I want it. I don't know how likely that is.
He's still not played, I think, the past few days, has he? They sat him out for trade purposes.
So it sounds like he's going to get moved, and I don't think the Sens have the assets ready at this point to make that move as a deadline move. That they're gonna, if they go after a big defenseman, it's probably going to be an off-season move. So I'm not sure how likely that is. I love the idea of Mackenzie Weegar. I don't know if you were seeing talks about him.
Yeah, no, that is another name that I've seen floated about that I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, and management's probably looking at like, oh, he's an Ottawa guy, he'll take a discount. So I mean, there's probably something to that as well. But
and not just the discount part, but like we do like our local boys. We do like our hometown local boys.
Even when they're Eric Goodbranson.
Scott Sabrin. He's relatively local, I think. I can't remember. No, we have like several criteria. If you're going to be, if Ottawa wants you, you either have to be childhood/teenage friends/young adult friends with any one of the current players or other prospects.
Right.
Your dad probably needs to be an NHL player.
Yeah.
Or a coach or someone working in the organization currently. UND.
Yeah, there you go.
And local boy.
Yeah.
If you tick all four of those boxes, you're in the Sens. So yeah, that honestly that probably to me sounds almost more plausible than Chychrun.
Yeah, the price is probably much lower too. Expiring deal. I don't know. He'd like to play for Ottawa as well. That'd be nice. But no, I don't think anyone's going to come close to Giroux as far as best local boy acquisition for quite some time.
100%. I'm honestly like in awe of what he's done this season. You know, people were saying like, oh, he's getting old now, maybe he'll slow down. No, he's basically having a resurgence.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it. I love it. Here for it.
Absolutely love it. And I know, and very early on, like within I'd say like 4 or 5 games, I saw a bunch of people tweeting like he kind of looks a lot like Alfredson out there, and I was like, I'm not buying into that quite yet. But now that we're like 56 games into the season, he plays a lot like Alfie, and it makes me feel like a kid again. I love it. It's a great, it's just solid two-way, can score. Is everyone's dad. That's the Alfie resume. So
Yeah.
it's working really well for Giroux as well.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I remember people saying at the beginning of the season, why is Claude Giroux playing like we expected Alex DeBrincat to play at?
That's yeah, honestly.
Yeah. And I was sort of like, that's yeah.
No.
But yeah,
Well,
I don't think we should let tonight's game get us down too much.
that's so
I
funny you say
think
that because I was about to go into my last real big complaint about today's game, which is can we end the Shabbat Zaitsev pairing experiment already, please? Like, can we just
I
just
wanted to end it months ago.
it's
This
right.
shouldn't still even be a
And the
thing.
problem is that
And
like Shabbat still like he had a pretty good game, all things considered. He had one of his better games of the season, I think. And despite Zaitsev just like dragging him down for
anchor,
most of it.
anchor. And this is one thing that still bugs me, and it's again, like I said, something I'm going to write about at some point, is the things that Pierre Dorian didn't do in the off season are starting to almost outweigh the things that he did do. He didn't sort out Zaitsev. I mean, we still have Travis Hamonic.
Who's looked good with Sanderson according to him as well.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, geez, I wonder why that is.
Oh.
I mean, he wasn't too bad today. To be fair to him, he wasn't too bad today.
He had a really nice back check there.
That experiment should not have ever happened.
Right.
You know, we literally we have Zaitsev, and around the same time we got Ron Hainsey. Then we got Gabranson. Then we got Hamonic. We're just spending like so much money on these dead weight drag down defensemen.
I miss Dylan DeMello so much.
I was just about to say, and we could have kept Dylan DeMello. And the thing is, I think the main issue was term. I think it was either that we didn't want to pay him or it was term. And at the end of the day, we've paid pretty much as much money for, like for Hamonic. I mean, yeah, not term, but we've paid the same amount of money. Gabranson, I think's cap hit was 4 million.
It is now with Columbus.
I think it was still 3 to 4 when he was with us. And I'm just
he might have had one of those
like,
contracts where the real money was lower, which was the Sens' favorite move for a while.
I think that's
there.
what it was. I think he had a cap hit of 4, but we actually paid him 3.
Could you imagine Sanderson with DeMello? Can you like?
Well, this thing, I still think DeMello was Thomas Chabot's best partner.
Yeah, Zub Sanderson. Now that would be cool with a DeMello. Yeah.
We could have had a top 4 of those 3 guys. And I'm still mad about it. It was years ago, and I'm still mad about
it. And then who's that upset at a Brandstrom Holden third pair? I'm cool with that. Like if in this hypothetical, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Holden could be better, but in isolated minutes, he's all right. You know, the choices that have been made, especially on the blue line in the last few years, have just baffled me.
I'll take Holden over Hamonic or Larson or whoever else I want to call up. So
yeah.
The upside is I do love the idea of like maybe conservatively selling at the deadline, move Watson, move Kelly if you can. They're probably not going to move Kelly.
Well, yeah, I think this is the thing. I definitely think we can move Watson. I think we should. I think in terms of whether it be deadline or off season, I think we have to try and shift Zaitsev. We have to try and shift Hamonic somehow, whether it's now or whether it's July. At some point, we have to shift those. In terms of players that I think if we have to move, we have to move. Kastelik and Kelly, I want to root for them so bad. I really want to root for them so badly. I'm sorry, my partner's just grabbing me my phone charger.
Well, while you're on that point, I was gonna actually bring up that, like, even if they do move on from Watson or or Kelly or Gambrell the deadline, who's probably getting called up first is fucking Castellic. Like, that's what's gonna happen. I can
Yeah.
see it
And
right now. They're gonna be like, no, no, we'll keep Sokolov and Crookshank in the minors where they're killing it. Like, just give
yeah,
give the
but the thing
kids a
is, like, what
chance.
I don't know what, and I don't. Are Belleville even good enough to make the playoffs in EA at the moment?
Nah,
Like, why not bring them up? Why not give them a chance to see how they do? If they're not
because
needed in Belleville, then they're not needed in
because
Belleville.
God forbid you have
There's no
skill on
two
the
ways
fourth
about it.
line.
Well, this is the thing, and I think it's something that. Sorry, I'm live on the internet, and I'm just plugging things in. Um, that's the thing. Why are we so afraid to put skilled, fast players on the fourth line? For so many years, we've been obsessed with having the fourth line be basically aggressive checking players, throwing hits, starting fights. Do we need that? Do we really need that?
Yeah.
Is that what we want to devote our entire fourth line to? And this thing, I want to root for Castellic and Kelly because they're younger guys. They, you can see them trying,
Yeah.
but it's kind of like, could they get us something?
A
Could they get us
sixth, a
something back?
seventh, I'd take it. Honestly, I like Castellic more than the rest of the rotating door of fourth liners.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
Kelly just hasn't done it. Gambrell not doing it. Watson not doing it. Like, I'm
Well,
perfectly happy.
apart from today, Gambrell decided he was going to have about 4 cans of Monster Energy and get out there today.
And the Sens are
Where
0
has
or
this
0
been
and
the whole
2.
rest of the
The,
season?
the Sens are 0 and 2 in games that Gambrell has a point. So that's fun.
Yep.
He's the anti
Yeah.
DeBrincat. He's like the I don't know how that's gonna go, but
Yeah. But yeah,
oh
and like we said earlier, Batson, move him. I don't mind. Like if I would rather lose him than Pinto or
yeah,
Greg or
yeah.
yeah. If we're going to send off one of them, I don't mind it being him, to be
Defense is a
honest.
problem, and offense is honestly not even just like a positive on the Sens, but frankly, like they've got more than they need. So I figured, you know, just try. I would love to see him shipped out for a top four defenseman because as much as
Yeah.
his contract's probably the best out of a lot of the tops, it's kind of a sweetheart contract at this point with how many points he scores. I think any GM looks at an under 5 mil for the next 3 years and who can put up like at least 70, 75 points if he stays healthy. Like, go for it, and in return, just give
Yeah.
us a defenseman who knows what to do because the Sens need more of those.
Yeah. One last question I want to pose to you. What do you think about the goaltending? What do we do moving forward with this? What do
See,
do
I'm
you
one of
think the
those.
Cam Talbot experiment is over already?
I think so. I'm one of those people who has a really tough time putting any faith into already established goalies because goalies are voodoo. You can't like goalies are the weirdest thing in the world. There's so many goalies that struggle in the minors and they look good in the NHL. I think you look at honestly, I'm perfectly happy with it. So Forsberg's probably out for the whole season. Um, when Talbot comes back, just like stick with him for a bit, and then whoever consistently is playing better between Sogard and Mandalese, I think you keep one of them up. But between them and then Marilinen is killing it in Finland for some reason. Dude struggled in the OHL and is killing it in pro in Finland now because that's just how it works apparently. Like I said,
It's
goalies
probably
are
different
voodoo.
style of play as well over there. You get used to different style of
Yeah,
play, different maybe different slightly. Maybe they're stricter on stuff, not as strict on stuff.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
yeah,
all that to say, I think it's really really tough to address a goalie issue and walk away from that making a move that works. I think goalies are the weirdest thing and you just kind of have to hope that somewhere in your mess of goalies in the pros and in the minors, you just hope that something there is going to work.
yeah. But this is the one thing that I look back at the last few years and the goalie experiments we had, and most of the goalies we had that were really good were the ones that we didn't kind of put the pressure on. You know,
Yeah.
before both of them got out injured, in my opinion, Forsberg was playing better.
Yep.
Like, you know, so many less risky moves and decisions. Look back a few years ago, we have Murray, but again, our backups were playing better. Remember Anders Nielsen?
Yeah.
He stood in his head some nights and did the most insane things. And it's almost like we get so many of these goalies that are heralded as like amazing, and then they come to Ottawa and they just die.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that says something about our defense. I don't know if that says something about sheer dumb luck. But, you know, like I've heard a few people throwing out that maybe we should go for Thatcher Demko. And I'm like, what's to say that the same thing that happened with Talbot and Murray won't just happen with Demko here?
Yeah. It's like Demko could be Murray, or he could maybe not be. Do a trade. Those are the two options. You're right, folks. But yeah, I think with that awful goalie question looming, we'll call it a show, because the Zoom gods are cutting out our time here momentarily. So
Zoom gods.
yeah, the Zoom gods who make sure that we don't go overtime every single time on this show, because that's what we
unless we'd like
do.
to pay more money.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming back on the show. It was really nice to talk to you again, and yeah, hopefully if you know, the Sens get enough afternoon games in the future, maybe we can do this again.
Yeah, honestly, thanks for having me on again. Apologies to everyone that's had to look at my god awful integrated webcam that makes my entire face and background look like a potato. So, but yeah, it's been fun being on again and just getting to chat about the Sens. And yeah, hopefully we can do it again next season.
Sounds good. All right, and everyone, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.